Let's look at one more solve a formula for a variable. Here the directions are to solve the formula for t. This equation is now solved for y. We want to solve it for t. Alright, so if we think back to some other equation work we've done lately, this equation has a fraction in it. Okay, it has a rather long numerator, but a single denominator, 6. So remember that we can clear the fraction if we multiply both sides by the denominator 6. So we can multiply by 6 here and by 6 here. Alright, now this is one numerator 6 and one denominator 6. So the 6's cancel to 1's, or the fraction is gone. Let's multiply 6 times y for 6y is equal to no more fraction here, r plus s plus t. Now remember which variable we want to solve for is t. So we need to eliminate the addition first, so we have to eliminate plus s and plus r. So we should be able to do that with minus r minus s, both at the same time, and minus r minus s might have to look like plus negative r negative s. Okay, what happens on the right? R minus R cancels, S minus S cancels, and T remains. And over here we might want to write the positive value first, 6y minus R minus S. Okay. Remember we subtracted R and S from the other side. We would be subtracting R and S from this side. Alright, and then the job is done. We have many variables left in our expression, but there are no like terms. We can't simplify this expression anymore, and t is isolated. The formula is solved for t. Okay, let's begin now with some problems from 10.5, working with applications of percents. So we want to solve these by translation. We can solve, there are 3 different kinds of percent problems basically, but we can solve them all the same way if we will translate. And if we'll translate, then again we don't have to move a decimal place for a percent. It will be in the correct place. So let's begin by translating. The number 25, the word is 50% of what? Alright, so the number 25 remains a number. The word is translates to the equal sign. 50% translates to the decimal number 0.5 or 0.50. The word of translates to times. And the word what translates to our variable. Okay, so now we have, if we rewrite that in the simplest way possible, 25 is equal to 0.50, or we could simplify that to 0.5. We don't need the last 0. 0.5 times x, 0.5x. Now we're solving for x. We want to know the replacement for the word what. So we're dividing both sides by 0.5. And the 0.5 over 0.5 cancels and x is isolated. And then 25 divided by 0.5 should be 50. And we want to see if that sounds reasonable. 25 is 50% of 50. Well, we know that 50% is half, and 25 is half of 50, so that sounds reasonable. Let's look at another translation. Here we have a percent problem. What is 25% of 780? So again, let's translate a part at a time. What is 25% of 780? So what becomes our variable? It's the part we don't know. Is becomes equal. 25% becomes the decimal number 20.25. Of becomes times, and 780 stays the same. Now let's write this in the simplest way possible. X is equal to, well, it's already written in the simplest way possible, so we're going to multiply 780 times 0.25, and I'm going to have to pause and put that in my calculator or work it out, so you might do that too. And I get the number 195. And again, let's see if that sounds reasonable. What is 25%? That's about a fourth. You know, 25% is a fourth of 780. Well, let's just estimate. 780 is about 800, close to 800. And a fourth of 800 would be 200. So 195 sounds pretty reasonable for that. Let's work one more. Translation. 3 is what percent of 150? So again, let's translate one part at a time. 3 is what percent of 150? So the number 3 stays a 3. Is becomes equal. What is our variable? And now we have the word percent. In the first two problems, we had a number with a percent symbol and we translated that to a decimal. So this time we have a variable with the percent word, so we might want to translate the percent word to a decimal. The percent translation of the word percent is hundredth in decimal form. The word of becomes times, and then 150. Okay, so now let's begin to write this in the simplest way possible. 3 is simplified. Here we have x times a decimal number times 150, so we could go ahead and multiply in any order we want to. Let's pick up the number multiplication first. So that's 150 times 100th. That should move our decimal. 1 times 150 is 150, but we'd need 2 decimal places, so 1.5 when we multiply the numbers times x. We could write the x here. That shows 1.5 times x. And now to solve for x, we need to divide both sides by 1.5. Okay, and that cancels the 1.5's here. X is isolated, and then you're going to calculate 3 divided by 1.5. And we get 2. Now we want to see if that sounds reasonable. See, 3 is what percent of 150? Well, 3 is a really small part of 150, and 2% would be a really small percent, so it sounds reasonable. 3 is 2% of 150. So we solve for the number 2 for the word what, so actually our answer, we'd want to show it as a percent. The decimal is in the right place, but we might want to go ahead and put the percent sign on it.